Today I'm showing you one of my go-to dinners for summertime. It's super light, very easy, and really impressive if you want to entertain with it. The flavors we're using today are caramelized onions, prosciutto, and asparagus, but once you learn the method, you can mix up the flavors however you like. I hope you'll stick with me. Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm really happy to have you here today. Today we are making an asparagus, prosciutto, and caramelized onion tart. We're using phyllo dough, which can sometimes be a little bit complicated to work with. So if you want to make this even easier, pick up some puff pastry. I really like the thin, flaky layers that phyllo dough provides, just a personal preference. And the bonus is I'll show you how to work with it today if you decide to try to recreate this. What I'm teaching you here is really a method. I'm going to show you how to work with the phyllo, how to create some sort of a creamy base, and then we're going to layer on some toppings that I like together. But if you want to change up the flavors of this once you learn the method, feel free. This one is ultimately customizable. It's great for a light dinner, just add a side salad and you've got dinner. Good for an appetizer, or even really good to bring to a party. So let's get going. The first thing we're going to do is make sure all of our topping ingredients are ready before we start to work with the phyllo dough. So we've got to assemble our base, make sure our asparagus, prosciutto, and caramelized onions are ready, and then just get all set up to work relatively quickly once we unsheath our phyllo dough. So today I'm using 3 different types of cheese. I'm using cream cheese, feta cheese, and a little bit of mascarpone. You can choose different cheeses. You can use just one of the cheeses that I'm using, or you can pick even a melting cheese like mozzarella. This is really to your personal preference. You want total, depending on the size of your tart, about 12 ounces of cheese. So as an example, if you're using just cream cheese, that's about 1.5 blocks of cream cheese. So we're gonna give this a mix. Just wanna get it so it's spreadable, because this is what's going on as the base of our tart. So the flavors that I'm using today are summertime flavors for me. A little bit of tarragon, a lot of mint, and some chives. We'll toss some garlic and salt and pepper in here too. So this is a perfect consistency for me. There's still some chunks of feta, which I really like, but it will be definitely spreadable. So to our cheese mixture, I'm gonna add some garlic, probably about 2 teaspoons. And some herbs. I've got chives, tarragon, and mint. So I'm gonna reserve some of the mint to tear on top of the tart, and then I'm gonna strip the leaves off the rest of this mint and combine it into our cheese mixture. Chives, this is all I had in my garden, so that's what we're going with. And then this tarragon. I've got some with kind of woody stems, so I'm gonna strip it off the stem. So the way to do that is to hold on to the tip of the herb, pull the leaves backward, and then snap the top off. So I'm gonna chop up all of these herbs. So the only other thing that I've done in preparation for this is to melt some butter. I probably have about 8 to 10 tablespoons. Put my phyllo dough out in the refrigerator overnight, and then set it out on the counter for just a couple hours today so far. Phyllo dough is found in the refrigerated section of your grocery store, near the puff pastry, near the pie shelf. The other thing I've done is wash and snip the ends off of this cute little young asparagus. To trim asparagus, all you do is take the full asparagus spear, hold it somewhere in the middle, and snap it. And wherever it snaps off, you want to discard the bottom part of that. It's likely very woody and pretty tough to chew on. And then I've caramelized some onions, but you don't have to caramelize them. Caramelizing onions is super, super easy, but it's something I usually do in bulk and then have them in my fridge. It's not something I probably would do special for this tart. Okay, our boatload of herbs can go in. And then the last thing is a little bit of salt and pepper. Phyllo dough is actually quite delicate. So while this mix is really super spreadable, I'm actually gonna add a couple tablespoons of cream. I just wanna loosen it up a little bit. So call that 2 tablespoons of cream. And we'll give that another mix. Just loosening it up a little bit. Really flavorful. I'm not gonna add anything. I could add a little bit more salt and pepper, but I'm actually gonna salt and pepper the top of the tart. So this is done. Time to set up to work with our phyllo dough. So phyllo dough comes, again, in your freezer section. It comes rolled in plastic. So I've added to this phyllo dough a sheet of parchment paper just to ensure that I'm totally covered. So the trick to working with phyllo dough is to work with it very quickly and to cover it in between use. You don't want it to dry out. All it is thin sheets of pastry, really super paper thin. What's going to make them flaky is the boatload of butter that we put in between the sheets of pastry. So to work with this phyllo, you'll want to have your cookie sheet prepared. So this is just a cookie sheet that is big enough to accommodate my tart with a piece of parchment paper on top of it. You'll want to have a whole bunch of melted butter. First, I'm going to assess my phyllo dough. This is huge. This runs from here to here. I don't need a tart that's that big. I probably need a tart that's about half that size. So I might actually cut this in half. So then our tart will be that size. I'm gonna use a really sharp knife and I'm gonna cut this in half. And I'm gonna work with the top half of this phyllo dough only. So all I'm gonna do is take actually a little bit of butter to stick the phyllo to the parchment and take our first sheet and put it down. So we have a tart that's that size. So between each layer, you're gonna add some butter. The butter both sticks the layers together, but also creates that nice flakiness that phyllo dough is known for. So then you're just gonna layer one on top of the other. I'm probably gonna do like, I don't know, 15 sheets or so. We'll see. I'm gonna phyllo until my heart feels like it's the right time to stop. So between each layer, butter. And then another layer. So if your phyllo dough rips a little bit, it's not a problem at all. Put it down as well as you can, piece it back together, but no big deal at all. Okay, I'm gonna keep working with these sheets of phyllo dough, and I'll see you in a minute when I'm getting close to done. So it's probably about 3 minutes later, and I've gotten to the bottom of my half stack of phyllo sheets and almost to the bottom of my butter. I think there were 18 sheets in this package. So this is 18 sheets of phyllo. So the top sheet, you wanna make sure you get it nice and buttered, especially around the outside. We're gonna leave about an inch margin with no topping so that outside gets nice and crispy. So I'm just paying special attention to the outside with the last little bit of my butter. And this is absolutely not perfect. You don't want this to be perfect. It's meant to be kind of rustic looking. So that's what we're working with. So the rest of this phyllo, I'm just gonna roll back up in the parchment, put it in a plastic bag and put it back in my freezer. I think I can work with this again. So we're gonna get this into the freezer. We are all set up to assemble. Now, as I mentioned, we're gonna leave about an inch border all the way around. So I'm gonna first spread on our cheese mixture. And I'm just gonna be strategic about where I spread it. Gently pushing to about an inch away from the edge. You don't wanna pull this or tug it, you just wanna gently spread it. Better to take more time here than to rip a hole in your phyllo. If you're having a hard time getting it into a specific corner or nook or cranny, just move the cookie sheet to work with you. There we go. Nice and rustic. So you can assemble this really however you want. If you leave the prosciutto on top, it'll get a little bit crispy. If you leave the asparagus on top, it looks beautiful that way. So I'm just gonna take some caramelized onions and start kind of dolloping them over the top. I could play with this forever, but I'm gonna stop myself and call that good. Next, I'm gonna put on the prosciutto because I like the asparagus on top. But when I'm putting on the prosciutto, I'm gonna kind of lay it not perfectly flat. I'm gonna give it a little bit of dimension. So you can very easily make this vegetarian by taking the prosciutto off. And if you wanna make it vegan, you can. You just have to use entirely vegan cheese. Okay, so I've used almost that full pack. I'll probably have a couple sheets left over. So I like to just arrange the asparagus just like this. Very simple. This does work with thicker asparagus, but I like to have the thin ones to ensure that they cook. This will cook for probably 30 plus minutes. So there we go. We fit it all on. Perfect. So there is our asparagus and prosciutto tart, ready to go in the oven. Last thing though, add a little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm gonna drizzle just a little bit of olive oil on top of this. Little drizzle of olive oil. Now this goes into a 400-degree oven, and I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I'm gonna start checking it probably about 25 minutes, but I think it might take up to 40. It's a pretty thick tart. So I'll be back to you when it's baked. And 25 minutes later, we have a beautiful asparagus, caramelized onion, and prosciutto tart. I'm just gonna finish it with a little bit of chopped mint, sprinkled over the top, and a drizzle of honey. You can serve this right away. You can cool it and eat it cold. It's delightful the next day, but we're gonna cut into it right now. And now my favorite part, which is the taste. This tart is delicious. So impressive looking too. It looks like you spent so much time on this, and we really didn't spend that much time. The honey is a nice touch. I would encourage you to try that if you're open to a little sweet finisher. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope you'll give this tart a try, maybe at your next dinner party, or bring it to a friend's house as an appetizer. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe to my channel. I hope to see you here next time. Cheers.